Good morning. Today is Friday, June 7th, 2024. Today is Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the first day of the Jewish month of Sivan. Happy Rosh Chodesh. This date is a momentous date in Jewish history. First of all, it is one of the few actual dates of the calendar that is mentioned explicitly in the Torah. The Torah says, back in Parshas Yisro, describing the events leading up to the revelation at Sinai, which we celebrate on Shavuot, the Torah says, B'chodesh hashlishi, l'tzeis b'nei Yisrael meretz Mitzrayim. So, Chodesh hashlishi, Nisan is the first month, Iyar, Sivan is the third month. By Yom Hazeh, on that first day, so that's today, Rosh Chodesh Sivan, Ba'u Midbar Sinai. The Jewish people reached the desert of Sinai. They had traveled from Egypt, and they had reached the destination, the immediate destination of Sinai. Vayavo Midbar Sinai, Vayachanu Sham, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Hahar. And the Jewish people camped right around the mountain. We reached Mount Sinai. And as I've said before, we reached Mount Sinai geographically, and we have also reached Mount Sinai spiritually, because every day, and that's what the counting of the Omer is, each day to try to improve ourselves in our Torah learning, in our enthusiasm for performing mitzvos, and each day we elevate ourselves so that this achievement is not only a geographical achievement, but famously our rabbis say that on this day, when we reached Mount Sinai, Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Hahar, Israel camped there around the mountain, Lashon Yachid, as one person. Rashi famously quotes, Ki ish echad belev echad. When we approached Sinai, the entire Jewish people, however many people it was, must have been 3, 4, 5 million people. We were like one person with one heart. The greatest level of unity, of bonds between ourselves that has ever existed. And that is associated with this date. This date is the date we reach not only the geographical location of Mount Sinai, but the spiritual level of Ish Echad Kalev Echad, one heart, one person. How did they achieve it? And more importantly, how can we achieve it? Or at the very least, how can we start to work towards it? Well, we talk about this a lot, and there are many factors, but here is one that I just heard in what I think is a brilliant story from Rabbi Biderman. It's a true story. It happened about 10 years ago. There was a well-known, respected rabbi in Israel, and he and his wife made a wedding for their child. It was a Monday night. Beautiful simcha. The next day was Tuesday. This rabbi and his wife also made Sheva brachas for the new couple, a party to honor their wedding the night after the wedding. Now, this rabbi had an assistant called a gabbai. And the gabbai was always with him. We might refer to that person as an executive assistant. And they traveled together, and he helped him with all the logistics, and whatever he needed, this assistant would help him. That's how this rabbi went about his day. So after the Sheva brachos on Tuesday night, the rabbi says to his gabbai that I want to go to attend the wedding of so-and-so, another rabbi who is making a wedding for his child that night on Tuesday night. And the location of the other wedding was far away. So the gabbai said to the rabbi, you haven't slept in 36 hours. You made a wedding 24 hours later, you made a Sheva bracha. You haven't slept in 36 hours because of your own simchas. Maybe tonight you need to rest. Maybe tonight maybe it's not a good idea to go. But the rabbi insisted it was important for him to show up at this wedding. So they went. They finally arrived at the wedding of the second rabbi. The second rabbi he and his wife were making it for their child. And the rabbi went over to this second rabbi and said, Mazel tov on the wedding. Mazel tov on the simcha in your family, as one would politely say, obviously. And the second rabbi said to him, thank you. No one called you. No one called you? So the Gabbai who's hearing this was apoplectic. No one called you, meaning no one called you to come here, meaning why are you here if you weren't invited to this wedding? But can you imagine the chutzpah? A respected rabbi comes and they say mazel tov to you. I mean, even if he's not invited, at least say mazel tov back to him. To speak rudely to him, you weren't called? Would you ever at an event say to someone, you weren't invited, go home? Chas v'sholom. The Gabbai couldn't believe that this second rabbi was so disrespectful to his rabbi. They came all this way. The rabbi had more than an adequate reason not to come to this other wedding because of his own wedding and Sheva bracha. And the first thing the host rabbi says at this other wedding is, no one called you. You weren't even invited. What are you doing here? Incredible chutzpah. Incredible rudeness. And the Gabbai was livid. But his job as the assistant was to always remain calm, no matter how obviously upset he was and maybe should have been. But his job was to let his rabbi handle the situation, whatever happened, the rabbi handles it. Okay. Shortly after they left, then the Gabbai turns to his rabbi and says to him, I told you we shouldn't have come here. Why do we have to come here? And his rabbi looks at him and says, what do you mean? The Gabbai says, didn't you hear the rudeness, the chutzpah? Nobody called you. Is that a way to greet someone who comes a long way to your wedding? Nobody called you? But the rabbi didn't understand his Gabbai. What's the problem? So the Gabbai said, he said to you, no one called you. And then the rabbi laughed. And he said that let me explain the story. Earlier this morning, the rabbi says, I saw this other rabbi. We spoke for a couple of moments. I told him that my child was married last night. So I know how hectic it is for you today because I know you're marrying your child tonight because you invited me. So I know how hectic it is for you today. Is there anything I can help you with? So the second rabbi said, there is something you could do to help me. Somehow I lost my cell phone and I have to go on 1,000 different errands to get things for the wedding tonight. Do you know where I can go to get a cell phone for one day? So the first rabbi says to him, here, take mine. I don't need it today. My wedding was yesterday. Today I have a calm day. Take my cell phone. Just, if anyone calls for me, just tell them call my home number. It's okay. I don't need the cell phone. Take my phone and tell them to call me at home. So when I came to his wedding tonight, he merely told me, "No one called you." That's all. No one called you, responding to the favor that he had done him early in the day. So it was actually an innocent statement. It was a harmless statement. But imagine the machlokes if someone heard it without the context and the enmity that would have followed. So here's the lesson for us. So when we hear someone say something that sounds rude or provocative or insulting to you or to someone else, especially if you immediately think to yourself that there could be no possible other explanation that this was somehow harmless, but it was an insult, it was an attack, don't react right away. Make sure you have the entire context, the full story. And after that, the reality will be just the opposite, often just the opposite of what you thought. And we can try to work on this ourselves and to try to reach toward that goal that our ancestors reached today. Ish echad, belev echad, like one person, with one heart. Happy Rosh Chodesh. My friends, I wish you a great day and a beautiful Shabbos. And I look forward to seeing you soon in person.